Part 114. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1131. These were analyzed by Lu Yuyu and Wen Qiao. Wen Qiao, a straight man, would never have thought of this. Fu Nanli didn't expect this either, will it? Check it out, He Yuman will definitely be punished, but at present, if we want to do our best to stop the losses, we must let He Yuman return to his original family. If Dai Yi leaks it, then He Yuman can be give up. Fu Nanli, well, I'll have someone check it out. This weekend, I will go to the company with you. The main reason is that he is worried that he will not eat well. There are so many people in the company, who dares to force him to eat. So Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao to the company. The public relations release issued last night obviously did not satisfy everyone. Netizens are always particularly interested in things like this kind of scumbag men and bitches. They are talking about it everywhere. It is about to set off an online public opinion. If Zhonghuan Group does not give a precise statement, the stock will definitely fall. Fu Nanli's people have already gone to investigate Dai Yi. He entered the office and asked people from the public relations department to go to the meeting first. And he asked Fiona to call He Yuman's wife and invite her to come to Zhonghuan Group. In about half an hour, He Yuman's wife, Ms. Miao, came to Fu Nanli's office. When Wen Qiao saw her for the first time, he really couldn't understand why He Yuman was still stealing sex outside. Because Ms. Miao is beautiful and has a good temperament, and her movements reveal the feeling of an intellectual. She has a good appearance, and was a classmate of He Yuman. She also worked hard and accompanied He Yuman when he was in poverty, and even gave birth to children for him. Men are never satisfied. They have such a good wife, but they still want to cheat outside. Wen Qiao was a little angry. Miao Yuan shook hands with Fu Nanli. Hello, Mr. Fu. Sit down. Miao Yuan looked at the beautiful girl sitting aside. This is Miss Wen. Wen Qiao nodded to her. Miao Yuan sat down and Fu Nanli got straight to the point. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you want to divorce him, or do you want to continue to stay married? Wen Qiao could hear the slight impatience in Fu Nanli's tone. How could he not be angry that Mr. Fu actually wanted to act as the neighborhood committees and mediate the relationship between husband and wife? After this incident, He Yuman will definitely be in bad luck. Miao Yuan's eyes immediately turned red. Mr. Fu, can I tell the truth? You say. If the island people are willing, I am willing to stay married to him. Wen Qiao raised her eyebrows, and Lu Yuyu told her that her first wife would definitely not get divorced. At that time, she felt that she was being betrayed because she didn't care about it, and since everyone knew about it, how could she not get divorced? Unexpectedly, Yuyu was right again. Maybe she didn't understand human nature well enough. Why? Wen Qiao asked confused. Miao Yuan pursed her lips. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1132. Wen Qiao felt that this real society was a bit cruel. Fu Nanli created a perfect dream for her, so that she did not realize that in this world, not everyone's feelings are so perfect. In other people's lives, they have firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea. There is cheating and betrayal, and there are financial trade-offs. Fu Nanli nodded. I understand what you mean. Since you want him to come back, then I will let him come back. But after this incident, his position must be significantly reduced before he can be given to the board of directors, shareholders, and netizens an explanation. Mr. Fu should do this. He is still young. I am willing to accompany him and continue to serve Mr. Fu. Excuse me for taking a trip. I'll ask the driver to take you back. After Ms. Miao left, the atmosphere in the office became a little solemn. Wen Qiao had a puzzled expression on her face. Fu Nanli took her hand and said, "Why are you so bitter and so resentful?" Wen Qiao said bluntly, "If you fall in love with someone else in the future, then I will definitely break up with you no matter how good you are. I can't stand this kind of thing." As soon as these words came out, Mr. Fu's face immediately darkened, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Wen Qiao, who do you compare me to? Just talk about things, why bring me in? I fell in love with someone else? Do you dare to say it again?" Wen Qiao looked serious. A lifetime is so long, it's hard to say this kind of thing too harshly. Fu Nanli was so angry that he tugged on his tie and took her wrist to the lounge nearby. Wen Qiao looked confused. "What are you doing?" "Punish you." As soon as he reached the door of the lounge, there was a knock on the door, and Master Fu's punishment had to be interrupted. It was Qin Bei who came back. He went to check on Dai Yi as requested by Fu Nanli, and came back soon. Qin Bei noticed the ugly expression on his young master's face and thought he was still angry because of Mr. He. He had no idea that his appearance was too disturbing and ruined his young master's good intention to punish a kid who spoke out loud. "Say it." Fu Nanli glanced at him with a livid face. Qin Bazan said tremblingly, "I checked, and there is evidence that Dai Yi's agent contacted Director Zhang's secretary. These were captured by surveillance cameras at a coffee shop near Shenhua Entertainment. In addition, I used some means to get the chat records between Dai Yi and Secretary Zhang. Master, please take a look." Fu Nanli took Qin Bei's phone and looked at it. He did it neatly and quickly. With these evidences, it shows that when this incident was exposed, it was indeed Dai Yi who wanted to give it a try, hoping to squeeze out the main wife and successfully ascend to the throne. Fu Nanli threw down his cell phone. "Show these to He Yuman and see what he says." "Yes, young master, I will show it to Mr. He right now." Qin Bei took his mobile phone and went to He Yuman's office. When He Yuman saw the evidence of contact between Dai Yi and Secretary Zhang, he couldn't believe it. He thought that he was also a graduate of a world-famous university. This Dai Yi was in front of him. Time is as gentle as water, neither fighting nor grabbing, and it looks like the years are peaceful. I never expected that such a gentle and lovely girl would turn out to be so miserable. He became so angry that he felt that he was being played by others. He had nowhere to vent his anger and could only endure it for the rest of his life. Seeing his changeable expression, Qin Bei reminded him, "Mr. Fu is still waiting for your reply. Mr. He, go to Mr. Fu's office when you think about it." After a while, Fu Nanli saw He Yuman coming to his office with a guilty look on his face. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1133. Mr. Fu. He was ashamed that Mr. Fu was implicated in a private matter such as his personal indiscretion. How could Fu Nanli give him a good look? "You have two choices. One is to divorce your wife and be with Dai Yi. Then I will directly transfer you to my media company. The second is to be with Dai Yi, cut it off cleanly, hold a press conference to apologize to the public, and reduce the position to deputy director. It's your choice." He Yuman's expression even felt a little aggrieved. If he breaks up with Dai Yi, will he still be demoted to deputy director? He is now the CEO of Zhonghuan Real Estate Company and has been demoted to deputy director, 3 levels in a row. Is Mr. Fu really going to be so ruthless to him? Seeing his expression, Fu Nanli became angry, and his voice was as cold as an ice cellar. "Which one should I choose?" He Yuman said bravely, "Mr. Fu, I was wrong. I chose my wife. I will not let you be implicated because of personal emotional issues in the future." Fu Nanli pressed the phone on the table. He Yuman will return to his family, break up with the scandalous actress, and ask the public relations department to send an apology letter and prepare for a press conference. Fiona, okay, Mr. Fu. Fu Nanli hung up the phone and saw He Yumin still standing there. He seemed a little dissatisfied with his decision just now and said coldly, "What else do you want to say?" He Yumin said boldly, "Does Mr. Fu really want to demote me 3 levels because of such a trivial matter of emotional dispute?" Fu Nanli almost laughed angrily at him. Emotional dispute? Trivial matter? Do you really think that you are sitting in your seat? Is there any trivial matter? Anything that happens to you will cause the earth to shake. Don't you fancy Zhonghuan Group? The market today? Don't you know how much the stock price dropped at the opening? Do you know how much they can make things difficult for me because of your decision to stay on the board of directors? Have you just become a leader? Can't tell the difference. After training all afternoon yesterday, Mr. He obviously still didn't learn the lesson and had to add fuel to the fire, making their eldest son furious. He Yumin felt guilty after hearing this. "Mr. Fu, I was wrong. Demoting you is already my biggest concession, because I personally went to Silicon Valley to invite you back, because I have high hopes for you. This incident will be recorded in your account. If you do it again in the future, it will not be a downgrade. Okay, take care of yourself." He Yumin did not dare to talk back. "Why are you still standing here? Go out, do the public relations, the apology. This matter must satisfy the public." He Yumin hurriedly left Master Fu's office, sweat dripping from his forehead, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Although he is still a little aggrieved, he no longer dares to offend the angry young master. Although he is outstanding in talent, he is not irreplaceable. If he really angers the young master, he may really be kicked out. In Fu Nanli's office, Wen Qiao walked out of the lounge. It was to save He Yumin's face, so when Fu Nanli was training him, Wen Qiao had been hiding in the lounge. As soon as he came out, the phone on Fu Nanli's desk rang. It was Ye Mingkai calling. "Nanli, come to my office. Director Gao, Director Zhang, and the others are all here." Fu Nanli understood that the difficulties that should come will always come. The company's surname is Fu, but the words of the old directors on the board of directors still cannot fall on deaf ears, and they should spend energy to deal with them. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1134. He stood up, buttoned one button of his suit, and touched Wen Qiao's head. "Play by yourself, I'll have a meeting." Wen Qiao said Fu Nanli left the office and walked along the corridor to the end. Fiona knocked on the door. After entering, she saw Director Gao and Director Zhang sitting leisurely at the conference table in the office. Gao Liujun's eyes flashed with a gloating smile. After the eldest young master entered the company, he made many drastic reforms, which seriously affected the interests of him and some directors. That is to say, making money is not as smooth as before. Of course they hated this young master and wanted to drive him out of the board of directors immediately. Ye Mingkai alone could not achieve much. Fu Nanli looked as usual and greeted the two of them. "Director Gao, Director Zhang, why are you two here? What's the matter?" Gao Liujun chuckled and said, "Master Fu, did you watch the stock market this morning?" Fu Nanli's eyes darkened, and he really got to the point. "I saw it. What's wrong?" Mr. Fu asked me what's wrong? Because of Mr. He's incident, our entire Zhonghuan Group stock price is falling. The loss in one morning alone has reached hundreds of millions. If it continues to fall like this. Fu Nanli interrupted him in time. "It's normal for the company's stock to rise and fall. If it fell today, it might rise again tomorrow." His trader friends on Wall Street have already intervened. He doesn't even have to wait until tomorrow. By this afternoon, the market will have reversed its trend. Gao Liujun chuckled. Mr. Fu really speaks so easily. Are you trying to excuse yourself? Fu Nanli, do I need to excuse him? Director Zhang said at the right time, it's hard to say. After all, Mr. Fu personally went to Silicon Valley to invite him back, with an 8-figure annual salary. Now because of Mr. He's incident, the entire Zhonghuan Group's reputation has suffered, and there is also a huge sum of money. It's not appropriate for Mr. Fu to give us directors an explanation for the economic losses. Yamingkai came over and said, Nanli will definitely handle this matter impartially. Nanli, tell me, what kind of punishment will be given to He Yumin? Fu Nanli said indifferently, he has decided to break up with the female star and return to his family. He has asked the Public Relations Department to issue a statement and apology letter. In the afternoon, he will have He Yumin hold a press conference to express his gratitude to all the public and stock investors. Apologize, and in addition, demote him to the Deputy Director of the Marketing Department, and his position will be demoted 3 levels in a row. Yamingkai raised an eyebrow. All operations were very reasonable and could be considered a severe punishment. Whether it will satisfy other directors is hard to say. Even people like Gao Liujun will deliberately find fault. Did Mr. Fu solve this matter so easily? Director Gao also secretly put pressure on him as he spoke. Fu Nanli's eyes were sinister. Easy? Does Director Gao think this is frivolous? I don't think so. Any company that encounters a relationship scandal will resolve it this way. You might as well check the precedents. This is a personal moral issue, not a legal issue. Could it be that Director Gao wants me to send He Yumin to the police station? Director Gao chuckled lightly and said, I know it's not a violation of the law, but the losses Mr. He has caused to our company are huge. I personally think he should be fired and never hired. Their purpose was to cut off Fu Nanli's right-hand man. It's also He Yumin's fault. He has lived a good life enough, and he has to seek excitement. Being caught is such a big deal. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1135. Fu Nanli glanced at Director Gao. Director Gao is so ruthless in doing things. Aren't you afraid that something like this will happen to you in the future? Gao Liujun said with joy, even if something like this happens to me, I will treat everyone equally. He had a tough tone and left no room for discussion. He obviously wanted to severely defeat Fu Nanli through this matter. Yamingkai's face turned ugly after hearing this. This Gao Liujun was the most difficult person on the board of directors. He was also an old hero who followed the old man back then, and he couldn't move easily. Fu Nanli said indifferently, since Director Gao insists so much, then convene a board of directors and let all directors participate in the vote. If more than half of the votes are in favor of expelling He Yumin, then I will fire him. Gao Liujun's eyes flashed with satisfaction. Okay, then let's hold a board meeting. His support rate in the board of directors was not low to begin with, and could even be compared with Mr. Fu. What's more, he felt that Fu Nanli was unreasonable in this incident. With a little lobbying, he would definitely make He Yumin get out. Once He Yumin gets out, Fu Nanli's power in Zhonghuan will be weakened to a certain extent. Gao Liujun took Director Zhang out of Yamingkai's office. Yamingkai clicked his tongue. Why did you promise him to hold a board meeting? Fu Nanli sat lazily on the sofa. Do you think I have a choice? If I don't agree, Gao Liujun will say that I have a guilty conscience. What if the board of directors really votes more than half? Do you really want to fire He Yumin? This matter is a matter of personal ethics after all. It is very reasonable to be demoted 3 levels and apologize. You don't need to pay attention to Gao Liujun at all. If you ignore his words, the matter will not be dealt with thoroughly and there will be hidden dangers. Gao Liujun can use this matter to make a big fuss at any time. Yamingkai was a little conflicted, but her son was not wrong. This Gao Liujun is really annoying. Last time you hummed his son, he suffered a huge loss. He kept it in his heart. This time he finally got the chance. Let's see how happy he is. This matter was exposed because he hired someone to do it. Yaminkyu, ah. Really? Yes, but it was he Yumin who made the mistake in the first place, allowing others to take advantage of him. Yaminkyu pressed his temples. You really have to give he Yumin a good beating in the future. You are very capable, but you must also pay attention to your personal ethics. If you really like the woman you are marrying, you should wait until you get divorced. It's really not a good thing to drag your wife along like this and cheat on her outside. The board meeting was held 2 days later. Yaminkyu was worried. Aren't you worried? Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows. There are people from Gao Liujun on the board of directors, and there are also people from me. My achievements since I joined the company are obvious to all. As long as they still want to make money, they will not touch my interests easily. As soon as these words came out, Yaminkyu felt really relieved. His son was a natural business prodigy. Within a short period of time after joining the company, profits continued to rise. Except for people like Gao Liujun who were not so clean in the first place, most others benefited. Therefore, Yaminkyu should have confidence in her son. When Fu Nanli was in the meeting, Wen Qiao was waiting for him in his office. After waiting for 3 hours, Lisa ran over and reported to her, the secret ballot is over, and the votes will be counted next. Wen Qiao sighed. In the huge conference room, the highly respected supervisors of Zhonghuan Group came to vote. Those who agree to expel He Yumin will have 1 vote recorded. Those who oppose it will have 1 vote recorded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1136. Each one will be reviewed by the 30 directors present to ensure it is absolutely fair and impartial. Gao Liujun was confident. He saved a dinner last night. Many people who had supported Mr. Fu in the past were also filled with indignation, saying that He Yumin had gone too far this time. They felt that they could support Xiao Qing but they must not bring it to the table. They felt that He Yumin was too useless and could not handle such a trivial matter well, so they all expressed their support for Director Gao and expelled He Yumin from Zhonghuan Group. Yaminkyu glanced at his son and felt that he was unmoving, without any emotional disturbance. He couldn't help but admire him. This boy had the skills of an emperor. His appearance remained unchanged despite the collapse of Mount Tai. Although he was not very old, those old foxes could not help but admire him. It must be his opponent. There are a total of 35 directors here who can participate in voting. As long as the number of objections reaches 18, He Yumin will have to leave Zhonghuan Group. As long as He Yumin leaves, Gao Liujun will have a way to strike while the iron is hot and continue to attack Fu Nanli. Currently, the number of votes in favor and against has reached 17, as if the sports event has reached the match point. Seeing Fu Nanli's calm and indifferent expression, Gao Liujun felt a little nervous for a moment. His eyes wandered over the faces of the people who had dinner with him last night. They were all filled with indignation. Those who said they wanted Fu Nanli to step down would probably not change their minds and vote against it now. Supervisor Sun took out a ballot, unfolded it, and smiled slightly. Vote against it? The number of votes against He Yumin's departure from Zhonghuan Group has reached 18, exceeding the votes in favor. In other words, He Yumin only needs to be demoted and does not need to resign. Gao Liujun lost. Fu Nanli just raised his eyebrows slightly, as expected. Gao Liujun couldn't believe it. Supervisor Sun, are you mistaken? Are there really 18 votes against it? Supervisor Sun opened all the other votes and looked at them. To be precise, there are 20 votes against it, and only 15 votes in favor of He Yumin's departure. Therefore, Mr. He does not need to resign. Gao Liujun's face was gloomy. Obviously, many people had temporarily defected. They were so servile that they would only be the dogs of the Fu family for the rest of their lives. Gao Liujun completely lost this game. Fu Nanli stood up calmly and straightened the hem of his suit. Now that the voting is over, I would like to apologize to all the directors on behalf of He Yumin. Because his personal affairs have affected the interests of the company, I would also like to apologize to all of you. I guarantee that you will be satisfied with the dividends given to you at the end of the year. This is the most palatable guarantee. Gao Liujun made a lot of claims, but they were too false and empty. But since Mr. Fu said so, they still believed in his character. Many people were thankful that they supported the young master. And the eyes of those who voted in favor were a little erratic. If the young master found out, would it mean that they would have a hard time in the future? After the board meeting, Fu Nanli left the conference room surrounded by stars, and He Yumin stood outside his conference room with a guilty look on his face. Fu Nanli said indifferently, "You should be on your way to the press conference now. What are you doing here?" He Yumin bowed to him, "Thank you Mr. Fu for protecting me against all the odds. I will definitely live up to your expectations in the future. I am also very sorry for you." Fu Nanli said coldly, "Okay, stop saying these empty words. I don't need your apology. Go and apologize to your wife and the public. This matter ends here and will not happen again. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1137. He didn't protect him, he just didn't fall for Gao Liujun and the others. All the punishments that should be given have been given. If He Yumin doesn't have any real skills after being demoted, it will be difficult to climb up. Everything is left to the decision-making of the company's senior management. Fu Nanli entered the office, followed by Qin Bei and Songan. He said coldly, "Keep an eye on Gao Liujun. It's the young master. I will definitely pay close attention to everything about him, including his useless son." Fu Nanli nodded, "Well, go ahead." Wen Qiao was sitting on the boss's chair. Fu Nanli walked over and touched her head. "What do you want for lunch? How did the vote turn out?" He Yumin can stay and be demoted to level 3. Wen Qiao breathed a sigh of relief. The response to the apology statement issued by Zhonghuan Group was acceptable. Some people criticized it, while others thought it was enough. It won't affect your status on the board of directors, right? There will be some impact, it's not too important, don't worry." When Wen Qiao sat on Fu Nanli's lap to comfort him, Ye Mingkai opened the door and came in without even knocking. Wen Qiao was so shocked that she almost fell from his lap to the ground. Fu Nanli held her waist tightly. She was unable to move forward or retreat for a moment, especially like the troubles around the ancient emperors, who were caught red-handed. MRS Fu. Not only MRS Fu, but also 2 senior executives followed MRS Fu. Ye Mingkai simply didn't notice, and was glad that the 2 of them didn't do anything intimate. Fu Nanli was still holding her waist. Wen Qiao gritted his teeth and whispered, "Let go now." Fu Nanli said calmly, "Is there anything wrong with Mr. Ye?" The next few senior executives were neither able to advance nor retreat, they were all very embarrassed. Ye Mingkai was speechless. "I still have some work-related matters to talk to you about, Xiao Wen, why don't you step aside for a while?" Wen Qiao raised his hand, "Okay, I am very willing to avoid it. But if your son doesn't let go, I can't leave either." Fu Nanli whispered in her ear, "Go to Fiona's office first and have dinner together at noon." Wen Qiao ran away in a hurry and bowed to Ye Mingkai when he passed by her. Ye Mingkai smiled slightly and saw that the little girl's face was slightly red, and turned to glare at her son. Fu Nanli looked innocent, his eyes asking what's wrong. Yamingkai glanced at him and asked knowingly. Wen Qiao waited in Fiona's office for about an hour. At 12:30, the door of the office next to her opened. She hid in it and was like a turtle, but she saw the door suddenly opened, and Mrs. Fu poked her head in and said he shouted, "We have finished our meeting, Xiao Wen, you can go have lunch with him." Wen Qiao stood up bravely, "Okay, okay." Then he secretly returned to Fu Nanli's office. As soon as he opened the door, he bumped into a broad chest, and the man's voice rang in his ears, "What are you doing sneaking around?" Wen Qiao grabbed his wrist and said earnestly, "In the future, you have to be more serious in the company." Fu Nanli lowered his eyes and stared at her, "Am I not serious enough? The office's own lounge has never been used." Wen Qiao was anxious, "You still want to, you actually still want to?" Fu Nanli took some time to look at her, "What am I thinking about?" Wen Qiao pointed at his nose, "From now on, in your company, we are limited to holding hands, sitting on your lap, etc. This is absolutely not allowed." Fu Nanli put his arm around her waist and walked out, "I have the final say in my company." Wen Qiao was speechless and choked, "Watch your reputation. Isn't your position in the company still unstable? What if someone makes a fuss about it? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1138. Fu Nanli carried her into the elevator. "Don't be unfounded. My mother won't say anything. I, Fu Nanli, don't need to look at other people's looks when I'm in love." Wen Qiao sighed, "You don't look at other people's eyes, I see." Mrs. Fu looks at her with a very ambiguous look, "She is really, not a trouble, in fact, her son is the trouble for men, he is the first to seduce people every time of." "But if you say this, who would believe it?" She was so wronged. Fu Nanli asked Qin Bei to pay attention to Mr. Gao, but he didn't expect that he could actually catch Mr. Gao. That night, Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao were about to go to bed when Qin Bei called. Fu Nanli's face darkened. He was really good at picking the time. He didn't intend to answer it, but the phone kept ringing. Fu Nanli's face was ashen. After answering the phone, the person on the other end said in a solemn voice, "Master, something serious has happened." "What a big deal." "Director Gao's son, Mr. Gao, he hit someone with his car." Fu Nanli pursed her thin lips tightly and spoke after a long while, "How is the situation?" "It's a bad situation." Qin Bei told Fu Nanli what happened. Even if Fu Nanli wanted to deal with Gao Liujun, he never wanted to be involved in matters like human life. Gao Liujun has no skills in teaching his son. Now that drunk driving is strictly enforced, he dares to ignore the law and human life and do such a thing. "Master, the injured has been sent to the hospital. His life is in critical condition. It is estimated that Director Gao will be here soon. For the sake of his and his son's interests in Zhonghuan, I am afraid he will suppress this matter." "I know, send me the address. I'll come over now." After hanging up the phone, Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao rushed to the hospital together. Outside the emergency operating room of the hospital, family members of the injured came. Mr. Gao sat on the bench dejectedly. His secretary was the first one to come over and whispered to Mr. Gao, "Fortunately, I bumped into an older man. I guess it can be spent with some money." "Don't worry, young master." Mr. Xiao Gao gritted his teeth and said, "Old man, if you don't go home at night, why are you wandering around outside? Maybe you just want to make money. I'll just give them money later." There were footsteps at the end of the corridor. Mr. Gao looked up and saw his father coming over menacingly. He suddenly felt guilty. Gao Liujun walked up to his son, raised his hand and slapped him in the face, which made Mr. Gao dizzy and said, "Dad." Gao Liujun gritted his teeth and said, "You bastard, you know how to cause trouble for me all day long. Do you know that the young master of the Fu family has been staring at me recently? You are still handing him a knife in a hurry, you are a rip-off. Mr. Xiao Gao was dissatisfied. Who told his father to be restless and always thinking about messing with Fu Nanli? Is he capable of messing with Fu Nanli? Not to mention the old man of the Fu family, the support of Fu Chuan and Fu Cheng, and his mother Ye Mingkaiu, including himself, there is no fuel-efficient lamp. But he didn't dare to say this. His father would kill him if he did. Dad, yes, I'm sorry. Please help me resolve this matter. It's best not to expose it, otherwise it will be bad for you and me. Could Gao Liujun not know this? No matter how angry I feel, I still know that I still have to press the matter. He coughed lightly and glanced at his secretary. The secretary walked up to the family members with a very superior attitude. I'm sorry, the light was not good at night. Our young master didn't pay attention for a moment and bumped into the old man. What do we want here? It's private, please give me a price. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1139. The meaning of charity is clear. The old man's granddaughter suddenly became angry. I didn't pay attention for a moment. When I came here just now, I smelled it. The perpetrator had a strong smell of alcohol. He was driving under the influence, or maybe drunk driving. He was taking human life as a trifling matter. I'll call the police right now. The secretary held down the girl's hand holding the phone. Little girl, I advise you to think twice before calling the police. What can you do if you call the police? The matter has already been caused. Even calling the police will not help. Let's talk about how to solve this matter. Maximize the interests of both parties and minimize the losses. What do you think? The girl was so angry that she was shaking all over. In your eyes, a human life is a matter of maximizing benefits and minimizing losses? That was my grandfather. He was walking well and was hit by someone. The perpetrator should be punished by law. Those on the side should be her parents, comforting her. Ting ting, ting ting, don't cry, don't cry. Gao Liujun's secretary said contemptuously, walking well? What is the old man doing outside at night? Who knows if he ran a red light? If he really ran a red light, then you can't blame others. The girl named Ting Ting burst out emotionally, then call the police. Let the police see if my grandfather ran a red light. Let the police see if your young master drank. As long as the police say it, we will accept it. The secretary gritted his teeth. Don't be ignorant, do you know who our husband is? We can give you the maximum compensation in terms of money. No matter how injured you are, we will cover all the medical expenses. If there is an accident, you will not be injured if you can't be saved. We will give your family compensation, and the amount will definitely satisfy you. The secretary saw that this family was dressed in ordinary clothes and was not a rich family, so he felt that he could definitely get it done with money. But she didn't expect Ting Ting to be very courageous. I just want my grandfather's life. The secretary was so angry that she almost rolled her eyes. She was so stubborn and said in a low voice, we can give you 2 million, so please stop making trouble. But the girl became angry and said, do you think being rich is a big deal? Don't use your money to dirty my character. Gao Liujun chuckled, it's just a matter of sitting on the ground and raising the price. You come with me first. He planned to take his son away first. As long as he left here tonight, even if he called the police tomorrow and tested his alcohol content, nothing would be found. He whispered, okay, you come with me first and let Secretary Chen handle the affairs here. Mr. Gao said calmly, yes. Gao Liujun came with his bodyguards, and a group of bodyguards in black escorted the two of them out. Ting Ting rushed forward, but her cell phone was taken away by the bodyguard. She was angry. "You, the perpetrator, can't leave now. You can only leave after the police come to make a decision." Gao Liujun's eyes were gloomy, and the leading bodyguard said coldly, "Secretary Chen will stay here to deal with related matters. The most important thing is to save the old man's life first." Ting Ting desperately wanted to hold on to Mr. Gao, but the bodyguards were blocking her. She couldn't hold on to the culprit. She was so anxious that she cried, "You can't leave. How can you not take human life seriously? My grandfather is still in the operating room, and his life or death is still uncertain. You must be responsible for him, and you should go to jail." Mr. Xiao Gao was scornful and didn't even bother to look at the girl. The bodyguard directly pushed Na Ting Ting to the ground. The girl was at a loss as she was no match for the power of capital. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1140. I could only watch helplessly as the culprit walked arrogantly and swaggering towards the elevator. The family of three could only sit on the ground, hugging each other and crying. "Dad, Mom, I don't want money, I just want Grandpa." "Ting Ting, don't cry. Don't cry. Grandpa is still rescuing her, nothing will happen to her." Seeing that those people had already walked to the elevator. "Ding doctor," the elevator arrived at the 4th floor, and Ting Ting seemed to see another wave of people coming out of the elevator. The father and son, who were extremely arrogant just now, suddenly became groveling, and she was in a daze for a moment. The elevator door opened, and when Gao Liujun saw Fu Nanli, his heart suddenly sank to the bottom. Unexpectedly, Mr. Fu actually arranged for someone to monitor him, not only him, but also his son, and now he even came to the hospital to block people. Gao Liujun regretted that he used He Yuman's incident to attack the young master a few days ago. He failed to hit him, but instead provoked his revenge. "This time, I'm afraid it's hanging." Mr. Fu Gao Liujun shouted respectfully. Mr. Xiao Gao was so frightened that his legs were shaking. "Master." Fu Nanli was wearing a suit, with one hand in his trouser pocket. Behind him were 5 or 6 bodyguards. Next to him was Wenqiao. He came out of the elevator with a casual look and looked Gao Liujun's son up and down. "I heard that he hit someone with his car." Gao Liujun's face turned pale. This was too straightforward. "No. Nothing. There is an old man who wants to cheat. I have promised to compensate them. It's not a big deal. Why did I alert Mr. Fu?" Wen Qiao took a step forward and covered his nose with his hand. "It smells so heavy of alcohol." Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows slightly. "Smells of alcohol? Who has been drinking here?" Cold sweat broke out on Gao Liujun's forehead. "Maybe my bodyguard is drunk." One of the bodyguards understood the situation and immediately raised his hand and said, I drank a little wine at night." Wen Qiao stepped forward and sniffed. "The smell of wine seems to be emanating from Mr. Gao." Gao Liujun's face turned cold. "Miss Wen, don't talk nonsense." Fu Nanli said coldly, "Since there was a car accident, did you call the police?" When Na Ting Ting saw this, she rushed over in 3 steps at a time. She intuitively felt that this noble young master could make the decision for her, and she said loudly, "This gentleman will not let me call the police and will take his son out of here." Fu Nanli raised his chin slightly. "Director Gao, this is not appropriate. If people from other companies find out about this matter, then the outside world will think that our Zhonghuan group wants to suppress this matter. Director Gao is not afraid of this. What is the impact on the company's reputation?" Gao Liujun had nothing to say. Fu Nanli added, "Director Gao was still driving after drinking. He was lawless and hit someone and tried to run away. It was a waste of human life. Is this how Director Gao usually educates him?" Gao Liujun gritted his teeth secretly, he might not be able to save his son. Qin Bei said to Na Tingting, I will contact the police here. Don't worry, if it is Mr. Gao's fault, our company will not cover him up. Besides, the accident is yours. It's my grandpa. Zhonghuan Group will bear all your grandfather's medical expenses and losses. Ting Ting and her parents almost cried while hugging each other, thank you, thank you. Gao Liujun refused to give up and called Fu Nanli aside, Mr. Fu, is this matter really going to alert the police? The police will definitely issue a notice by then, and Zhonghuan Group will definitely be involved, which will be bad for the company's reputation.